You walked in with a clear mission. Now you're in the doorway, with no idea why. This isn't aging or laziness. There's a brain process that kicks in at thresholds. Picture leaving the kitchen to grab something in the living room, then arriving blank. Often, the goal snaps back the moment you retrace your steps. Psychologists, including Gabriel Radvansky, describe doorways as event boundaries in your mind. At a boundary, your brain updates the current scene and temporarily files the previous one away. If you formed an intention in the kitchen, it's tied to that scene's context. Crossing the threshold refreshes the model, which can briefly make that intention harder to reach. Similar slips show up in virtual spaces, not just physical rooms. Some tasks show more errors after an on-screen doorway than after equal movement, without a boundary. Good news, recreating the old context helps the intention resurface by stepping back or mentally replaying it. That's efficient housekeeping, not failure. You're clearing space and can relink the plan on purpose. Event boundaries don't only disrupt, they can also help organize the larger story your brain is building. That trade-off explains vanishing details, while the gist or overall understanding sometimes feels clearer after a clean switch. The doorway cost isn't automatic. Some studies find little or none under certain tasks and displays. Load, immersion, and how memory is tested seem to matter, which helps explain mixed results. Younger and older adults both show doorway-linked slips in controlled tasks. So it's not just getting older. The effect taps a general way brains segment life into chunks, not a problem unique to one group. At event boundaries, memory systems like the hippocampus and a posterior medial network show reliable responses. Those signals line up with updating, storing the last scene while the new one comes online. Doorways aren't only wood and drywall. Tabs, apps, and screens create virtual thresholds that trigger similar switches. Group steps by room or app when possible, so fewer plans straddle a boundary with moving parts. To nudge recall, quickly picture the last room, say the goal aloud, or park a reminder where you'll cross. These work by reinstating context, the same principle behind stepping back through the door. Different tasks show different costs. Intention-carrying tasks often prove touchier than simple item recognition. That's likely because intentions live inside the situation model you're updating at the boundary. It's not just walking. Experiments compared equal distances with and without a doorway. More slips followed the boundary itself, pointing to the scene switch, not mileage. Boundaries chunk experience, helping you file a finished segment before loading the next one. That same chunking can aid understanding or later recall of the bigger picture. Matching contexts often boosts recall. Divers remembered best where they learned. Recreating context helps later too. Newer virtual work echoes this. Distinctive scenes and mental replay can make memories easier to reach. Stepping back or picturing the room won't always pop the thought instantly. It helps by improving the match between now and then. Some intentions still need a fresh cue. You can also use boundaries on purpose. Set the next scene's goal right at the threshold. Stating one concrete step lets the update load a crisp plan instead of hiding the old one. Each threshold invites a scene update. On hectic days, you simply hit more updates. Protect important intentions by reducing handoffs right around them when you have that choice. Slips get likelier under heavier mental load or distraction. Boundaries meet a busier mind mid-update. Lighten the load briefly. Pause, name the goal, then cross. Distinctive cues help your brain index scenes cleanly, making later recall easier. Add a small, memorable cue where you switch, so the plan has a stable hook. Plant a quick boundary bookmark. State the very next action just before you cross. Carry one crisp step, not a vague idea, so updating favors immediate execution. Learning twist, clean breaks can sometimes help you grasp structure, even if tiny details fade. Use short, marked sections for complex material, then resume with a fresh, labeled segment. So far, boundaries update scenes. Load matters, cues and bookmarks help, context can revive intentions. Research spans physical rooms and virtual spaces. with effects shaped by task demands and testing methods. In controlled rooms, people made more memory errors after crossing a doorway than after the same distance inside. That pattern matches event boundary theory. The doorway update temporarily reduces access to intentions tied to the last room. Virtual navigation tasks show similar boundary-sensitive slips, even when movement happens on a screen instead of a hallway. That generalization matters if most of your thresholds are tabs, apps, or game levels, not wooden doors. Replications are mixed. Some experiments find little or no doorway cost under particular designs or display conditions. That tells us boundary costs are not inevitable. Task demands and testing shape what you notice. Under some conditions, segmentation can improve understanding or overall remembering, even as surface details become less accessible. Boundaries reorganize memory. Sometimes that reorganization is the point, not a bug. Recall improves when retrieval matches where you formed the memory or when you mentally recreate that earlier scene. That is why stepping back, or vividly picturing the last room, often brings the intention back. Doorways behave like event boundaries that often hide intentions briefly, yet can also structure knowledge usefully. Treat thresholds as switches. Reduce load, carry one step, add a cue, and reinstate context when you blank. Stacking quick room crossing stacks updates, multiplying chances for your plan to slip between scenes. Batch small steps in the same room first, then cross with one clear action to carry. You don't need a door. Salient shifts act like boundaries, turning a corner, swapping screens, or switching tasks. Name the shift before it happens, so the update is vexed it, and your intention stays active. Notifications are tiny virtual thresholds that yank your scene model mid-thought. Silence or bundle them until after one carried step, then update on purpose. For studying, use short sections, then briefly reinstate the last section to stabilize what matters. Clear chunks can support understanding, while a quick mental replay retrieves specifics you suddenly need. Build a threshold ritual. Pause, breathe, say one next action, touch your cue, then go. This harnesses the update instead of fighting it, loading the new plan as you enter. Across rooms and screens, thresholds become tools when you budget updates and carry one step. The core idea is simple. Boundaries reorganize scenes. Reinstatement restores access when intentions hide. Under deadline, each doorway acts like a hard scene change that pushes the earlier goal out of spotlight. Finish the prerequisites here, then enter carrying one precise action you'll do immediately. If turning around isn't practical, conjure the last setting and the plan you formed there in vivid detail. Internal context matching boosts access. The system recognizes the old scene, and the intention often reappears. Relentless tab hopping spawns boundary after boundary, shredding working focus and parked intentions. Complete one micro-outcome, mute alerts briefly, and cluster tasks inside one app to limit loss. When nothing returns, assume the trace is weak, not missing, and seed a new retrieval path. Make a fresh cue and restate the target now, so the next threshold prioritizes it. A planned pause can clarify structure before a complex push, separating chapters cleanly. Segment the work, then do a short mental return to fetch the exact detail you need. Portable rules set. Batch before doors, label shifts, gate notifications. Section then replay, refresh cues, and carry one step. Treat thresholds as switches. Reinstate for retrieval, segment for understanding, and launch cleanly. The twist. Doorway clearing is a feature that keeps scenes from blending together. The reset reduces interference, so the next plan loads cleanly instead of fighting the old one. If the old plan stayed foregrounded, it would collide with the new context and slow choices. Boundaries separate episodes, limiting crosstalk, so today's action isn't hijacked by yesterday's intention. Segmenting your day into chapters can make the overall storyline easier to reconstruct later. You gain structure, even if a small detail briefly hides at a boundary. This isn't an aging alarm. Younger and older adults both show doorway-linked slips in controlled tasks. Treat thresholds as normal punctuation and use reinstatement rather than worry. One line. Doorways reset the scene, so a plan can hide. Step back or mentally replay to recover. Your brain is housekeeping for clarity. Use thresholds to load the next plan on purpose. Pick a habit at thresholds. Quietly name one next action or rehearse it mentally. Either way, you ride the update, reduce interference, and start the new scene decisively. Bottom line, doorways are event boundaries that can briefly hide a plan while the next scene loads. Recover by reinstating the prior context or anchor one concrete next step at the threshold. At thresholds, pause and name one next action. Treat the reset as helpful housekeeping. If this helped, subscribe and share a doorway detour. You'll make someone feel prepared, not broken.